Welcome to Engine Adventures off-road review of this 2020 GMC Sierra 1500 AT4. Don't know if you can hear that slight clatter of the diesel, but yes, this is the 3-liter diesel version. It's basically crossed up as much as it'll get right now, so that is your wheel travel there on the front all the way down. Should have showed you the other side. It'll lift a little there. There's the rear completely stuffed and fully articulated rear on the other side. So a decent amount of wheel travel. All right, for high-speed off-roading, this thing does okay. It does a little bit better than the Ram Rebel, I would say. I didn't like the air suspension in the Ram Rebel, so maybe the non-air suspension would be better, but as far as any other vehicle out there on the market, this is most equivalent, in my opinion, to the Ram Rebel. And I mean, it's still like a pretty stiff ride, but it handles all this much better. I'm going 20 miles an hour, and that spot was definitely a little rough for 20, but anyway, definitely doing a lot better than the Ram Rebel was over the same course.
Here we are in two-wheel drive with traction control on, and I'm quite surprised at how long it takes for the G80 to kick in. So the traction control is cutting power and the brake system is applying the brake, and I'm not sure if it ever actually does lock the rear axle. Now with traction control and stability control off, there's going to be a lot more wheel spin. And watch the right rear when it throws dirt. That's when the axle locks. Right there. So now the rear axle locked for a second, unlocked, relocked again. If you keep on the throttle, that will stay locked. You won't have to worry about it unlocking. I'm trying to kind of go as slow as I can over these. This is 4-wheel drive auto. Here you'll see the rear left wheel slip and then the front right wheel. That's when the 4-wheel drive auto engages into 4-wheel drive. Makes it up this, no problem. Moving on to 4 high, we get a really similar result. I am in normal drive mode for all of these except for the next one. I go to the off-road drive mode, but it really doesn't make a big difference. Again, the G80 is not even locking here because there's not enough wheel spin differential between the two rear wheels to cause that to lock. So here we're trying off-road mode. I did notice a little bit less sensitivity on the throttle, which gives you better control, but ultimately I'm not sure if there was anything else going on, if there was more braking on the spinning wheels or anything like that. And then in 4-wheel drive low, it automatically turns off traction control and electronic stability control. So basically it still will do the braking a little bit, and you lock the rear differential when you spin a wheel fast enough, which I do right here, and it locks and takes off. I'm leaving this clip in here for a couple of reasons. There were some other trucks I tested from GM that did this. The one was the GMC Canyon, the other one was the Chevy Silverado RST. When in 4-wheel drive and you push on the gas, say it revs up to 1600 RPM, you let off the gas and it will hold that 1600 RPM and just keep going. It does this both in drive and reverse, but only in 4-wheel drive low. I'm not sure what the idea is behind it, but I don't know, just something to be aware of. Nothing really to see here. I get comments about people saying they can climb this hill in 2-wheel drive. I haven't had a vehicle make it yet in 2-wheel drive, but go ahead and try it when you get a chance. We're going to go ahead and move on to 4-wheel drive auto. Just left it in normal mode, traction control on. This is basically how you would be driving it down the street. And already you can see at the very beginning when I first start talking, the rear wheel slip and then it engages the 4-wheel drive system. And the rest of the time on this hill, the 4-wheel drive system is engaged. And it does make it all the way up, but there is a bit of wheel spin. And one thing I have noticed in vehicles with a rear locker is that side slip there. as the truck kind of drifts off to the side because both rear wheels are spinning at the same speed. In vehicles that don't have a rear locker but have the brake system to brake the spinning wheels, they will usually perform better and not have that little drift off to the side, simply because the rear wheels aren't locked together, and it kind of forces all four wheels to spin evenly. Next up, we have four-wheel drive high with traction control on. We're still in the normal drive mode, and I am carrying a little bit more momentum through this. It still makes it pretty easily, and you can see again the rear end sliding off to the side a little bit. No issues really. It does quite well in four-wheel drive high. Again, we are in four-wheel drive high, but this time we are in off-road mode, and I don't notice a difference here. It's the same basic thing. The only difference is a little bit less throttle sensitivity, so I can drive slower if I want to. But at this point, the hill is getting so torn up, especially from these Goodyear Wrangler Duratracks. And I'm also on a slightly different line, and those two combined, it's just enough for the center of the frame. There's a cross member that's getting hung up there, and I've got to back down. Next up is four-wheel drive low, which again automatically turns off traction control and electronic stability control, and you also have to be in normal drive mode. It doesn't let you switch to other modes. You'll see a little bit more wheel spin here because of the traction control being off, but ultimately get hung up in the same spot as before. I moved the camera to the top of the hill, backed up, and changed my line just a little bit, and right here's where I was getting hung up, but I'm on a slightly different line, so it's able to make that pretty easy. And then as we approach the top, you can see the breakover angle. The camera is up a little bit high, so it's hard to see, but this truck just barely clears it. There might be an inch to spare underneath there, right in the center, but did pretty well overall. So underneath here, first of all, you notice the diesel engine clatter, but a lot of good protection underneath it. Everything's tucked up high. Anything that's down lower, there is a skid plate for, like that transfer case there. On the right is a fuel tank, on the left is a DEF tank, and yeah, ultimately I'm impressed with how well protected this thing is underneath.
Okay, one thing about the diesel engine is the low range gearing. So I'm in, and well, the engine braking, I guess. So I'm in first gear, four-wheel drive low, and I've got my foot on the brake because it's a little steep here, but I will let my foot off the brake in just a second, and let's see how well it holds it back. So foot's off the brake, and 5 miles an hour is pretty good on this hill. So one of the better ones. I think the only automatic that has done better is the Nissan Frontier, and maybe the Ford F250 7.3 liter gas with the 430 rear end and 10-speed auto. So overall, this one does really well with compression braking from the engine, and then of course it does have the downhill assist. Go ahead and flip that on now, and it keeps it down at 2 miles an hour. I haven't really figured out how to manually adjust it besides with the gas pedal, so if you know, then let me know. I've tried the cruise control, I've tried the gear shift buttons, it just doesn't seem to do anything. So anyway.
If you saw my Mercedes GLS video, which is sitting there in the back, we did have this GMC AT4 there. It was kind of as a backup in case something got stuck, but we played around with it just a little bit. One thing to note here, apart from the terrible filming, is how quickly this diesel engine revs and how high it can rev. So a major issue or downside to having a diesel engine when off-roading is your rev range is relatively small where you have power, and they weigh a lot. But in this case, this engine's not that big. It's a 3 liter. It doesn't weigh too much, and it revs pretty quickly and has a big rev range. It's almost comparable with the gas engines. Of course, the horsepower is down quite a bit. You'll still get a lot more range out of a gas engine, but this does really well. We were impressed with how well it did in this little sand spot. This wasn't soft sand or anything. It was pretty damp and had a lot of traction, but it was still just kind of fun to play around and see how this engine and transmission handle these conditions.
Thank you for watching Engine Adventures off-road review of this 2020 GMC Sierra 1500 AT4 with the 3-liter Duramax diesel. That's a lot, but that tells you exactly what this thing is. It's got those sweet Goodyear Duratrack tires on them, very aggressive. Overall, it does very well off-road. I was impressed with it. And it's more of a great all-around vehicle. It can tow pretty good, it can off-road, cruises down the highway real nice, and gets good gas mileage. If you liked what you saw, hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up, ring the bell. If you didn't like, comment down below and let me know why. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.